Alright, here we go today, guys. I wasn't going to make a video over this, and usually I do how-to stuff, but this is just so darn interesting. So, we're under the Rotstang here, and I'm getting it all prepped for winter driving. I got some snow tires I'm going to put on and whatnot. But the rear end has just sounded awful lately, and if you remember from prepping it for rallycross and whatnot, it had a real janky welded rear end. Well, I noticed that when I had it up in the air, I had some movement in my axles independent from each other, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I bet you the welds broke free. Well, indeed they did. So let's see if we can get a light on this and show it more in depth. All right, there we go. We kind of got a light on her. So you can see that all those welds broke free, that instead of really welding the spider gears together, they tried to weld it to the case here, which isn't going to go so well. So as you see, that's all broken up, and check that out. I was going to comment on the metal that you can see running in the oil, but when you got pieces like that are floating around in there, it's amazing. I've drove it like 2,000 miles with these axles being split like this. Oh, look at all that metal. That is unbelievable. And that ring gear still looks real good. There's not any pieces or even gouges in it. You can see where it's been polished from all the metal in it, but that is just incredible. So never seen something quite like that. I'll go through this rear end and see what else I find, but the only reason I started pulling it apart is it obliterated the axle bearing here, so it started having a real bad rotational noise. So I went ahead and pulled it apart, and this is what you have, and it's surprisingly quiet for all this, just all that carnage. So anyway, we're gonna get this pulled out, probably gonna re-weld this, and then we're just gonna drive it like nothing ever happened, probably. So anyway, here we go. Just another look at this here. Look at all the movement in that guy. I put the wheel on here so I can get a little more lever on it and really move it around, but that was pretty close to just throwing all those pieces all over. I'm amazed with those big chunks that fell out that this ring and pinion gear is so good. I just can't believe it. But I knew when I had this apart the first time when we were getting ready for rallycross. I only had a day, so I couldn't pull it apart and do it right, but I could tell it wasn't, you know, welded quite right by the previous owner. Definitely not the way to weld a differential. So anyway, we're gonna get this all pulled apart, pull that center pin, pull the C-clips, pull the axles out, and then pull that center section out, and probably weld our spider gears up the right way. We can see it's just a mess, but like I said, amazingly, I think we're still good to go. Put a few new axle bearings in it because those got toasted with all the shrapnel. Amazingly, there's no noise out of the pinion bearing when it was driving. But yeah, we can see the ring and pinion. Tremendously good shape. Wouldn't want to lose those 373 gears that are in there. So yeah, anyway, pretty ridiculous. All right, so I got her all apart here, and she's definitely a goner. So several issues back here. Even the bearings have started to go. You can see where the casing is broken around those rollers right down there on the lower left of the screen. Obviously the gears are all chewed up. And I would have just tried to slap it back together because it's the Rotstang and who cares. But one of these teeth has a really bad crack in it, and I wouldn't really want to, you know, have that break off. There we go. So this tooth here is obviously gone, but there's a crack, and I don't know how well it shows up on camera, that runs almost the whole length of it. So I could lose that whole tooth, and that could lock my tires up. So with that, I'm gonna say that she's toast. a look at the center section here out of the vehicle. Definitely was welded with like a 110 Harbor Freight flux core, but you can see that those welds had completely broke free, and for good reason, because it's a hardened teeth and cast case housing. So you really can't weld to that stuff too well, and your strength is only as good as your weld. And I don't think this individual quite understood that, because they really would have put more weld in there if they had, I guess. So anyway, that's the end, and I guess we're going to have to buy a rear end or do something there, but we're gonna have to make a change. This is definitely gone. All right, so poking around here on the old Craigslist, I really didn't want to have to go and get a rear end out of the junkyard or spend all that time, and I was hoping just maybe there'd be something. And I come across this ad. It's even in my hometown, but he's got a bunch of Mustang parts from an early 80s Mustang, but he says he has a rear end, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. I called him. He says it's a 4-lug, so we're going to go and pick that up. Hopefully we don't end up taking all this crap home. Maybe the wheels and tires might come in handy, but really I only need that rear end. So tonight I guess I'm going to roll out and see if I can get that stuff picked up. Well, I rolled out to get just the rear differential and the rims. So it's just stock gearing in there, open diff. We're going to try and get through the winter, and if we do get through the winter, we'll build that original rear end up with some 410 gears and a real posi traction unit. But like always, he had all this stuff and he's moving down to Oklahoma. So in the end, I walked away with all this stuff for $250, which I was going to pay him $100 for just the diff and the wheels. So I guess if anyone's looking for any Fox body Mustang hoods or anything, I got a jack and a whole bunch of other good stuff. So anyway, I think we'll be good. We'll slam that rear end in there, get our snow tires on these rims, and we should be ready to rock and roll again. All right, getting the Mustang all prepped for winter driving here. So got new struts on the front, which is a lot more than this car ever deserved. Got the new posi traction rear end in that come off of Craigslist for practically nothing. So we're getting closer here to getting her on the road. I just re-greased the bearings over here. Something interesting on this car. So I went to compress the springs and put it back together because in my ignorance I forgot to move my jack to the other side and loosen my strut nut, and of course the spring shot out of there. So normally it's an easy job. You jack it up and put your jack under the control arm and it doesn't go anywhere, but it was like 11:30 at night, and you know, you just start making mistakes around that point. But anyway, I compressed it all down. I was going to put it back in, but I couldn't get it to seat quite right. And lo and behold, what I found here is that there was a broken piece of spring sitting in the bottom. So none of the spring was actually sitting in the spring cup itself. So that could have really shot out there at any time. So as funny as it is, it turned out to be a blessing that I wasn't paying attention there and the spring shot out, or I would have never have noticed that. So anyway, yeah, like this piece was sitting down in there, and you can see it had been broken for a while with the rust age there. So anyway, I cut another half a coil off and got them both equaled out and put them back in there. So we'll see how low the car sits when we're all done. If it sits too low, I'll just put those little twist-in deals that you saw me put in the back on previous videos, just to raise it up. I wouldn't recommend, again, doing that to any springs you actually care about, but you know, look at the rest of this car, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, I'm gonna get the other side all greased up and done, and pretty much all we have left to do is lower it back on the ground, put the tires on it, not exactly in that order, but bleed the brakes, and stomp on this thing out the door. So getting pretty close. All right, so we're on the final stages here, putting the tires on the old Rotstang. And got the axle all in here, and it's good. The differential, I mean, I guess. So anyway, I went to put the wheels on, put the lugs on, and I kind of started to get in a hurry, and a lot of them were tight, and I started to try and run them down. And I just thought, well, I really don't want to destroy things. They were getting pretty tight in some places. So anyway, we're going through it with a little die here, and cleaning these up so that we don't destroy our lug nuts. With a 4 lug, you know, if you destroy one, you only got 3 lugs holding it on, and that's really not enough. So anyway, going through, we just really didn't want to destroy these and have this be the one thing that holds us back. So as you can see here, it was pretty galled up. And how this happens is when people put wheels and tires on, they kind of put it on, slide it across the top of the stud, and you know, just take your time, lift it up straight, put it on right, and don't mess anything up. Because in the end, you strip one of these lugs when it's on this stud and you can't get that wheel off, it's just bad news and totally not worth it. So just take your time and do things right. So we're going to get this thing straightened out so we don't have any problems in the future. Alright, here we are in the Rotstang, Thanksgiving Day. My phone died there the other night, but I stomped on the thing out the door and she seems to run and drive good. Apparently you can cut a coil and a half out of the front end of these Fox body Mustangs and still be okay. I'm not coming up in the fenders, but it's definitely a little lower than I'd like, so we'll have to do something there eventually. The rear end seems to be doing good. When you're cruising down the road in 5th gear at 65 on the speedometer, you're actually going about 72, so I'm not sure. It's either a 3 flat rear end or a 327, something in that range, but cruises right along. Gets pretty good manifold vacuum, so this is definitely an economy gear, which is nice. So we've got a long haul to test it on. Naturally, the first thing I went ahead and did is I'm making a 2.5-hour drive in the car, so hopefully we make it. But overall, it looks like it's doing pretty good. But definitely with this tall rear end, the speed really wants to get away from you. You got it. It's good. It's good. It's mint. Just like new. Perfect.